Hello, I'm psychedelically Andrew Heaton, and you're tripping on some primo Mostly Weekly. So last week, Jeff Sessions decided that facing a snowpocalypse, nuclear annihilation, and ongoing White House investigations, now is a good time to crack down on pot. Sessions is rescinding an Obama-era memo keeping federal prosecutors from charging people for marijuana crimes in states which have already legalized it. Oh, but how could I be mad at that face? There's a notion that drug use is rare and that drug users fall into two basic categories. There's the dangerous, crazy drug addict from an after-school special.
Man, everybody blows pot.
Is that a joint, man?
Or the lazy, dumb stoner type from a Cheech and Chong film. But drugs are a complex issue, and it's important to have a real conversation about them. You can have your opinion about drugs and which should be legal, but drug use isn't rare. A national survey on drug use and health estimates that 48.5% of all Americans over the age of 12 have used an illicit drug at least once. A more conservative estimate by the Mayo Clinic still says at least 20%. And that number is rising. Drug use is accelerating in certain unseemly and dangerous demographics. I am, of course, talking about the affluent, the baby boomers, and the women. So when you picture a drug user, think Meryl Streep.
See, I'm out of control, totally.
But it's not just the overrated actresses of the world. In fact, many of the most beloved and cherished icons of history ingested, snorted, smoked, and injected drugs. Don't believe me? Well, you, here's a list. Winston Churchill, amphetamines. That's right, Winston goddamn bow-tie rocking, jowls having, Nazi punching Churchill. After a stroke in 1953, then Prime Minister Winston Churchill was prescribed Drenamil, part barbiturate, part amphetamine, and 100% illegal by today's standards. Not only did Churchill drink heavily, he used amphetamines like a Phi Beta Kappa the night before finals. Churchill even had affectionate nicknames for the drug cocktails, like Greens, Reds, Majors, Minors, and Lord Morans in honor of his script-happy doctor. In fact, in 1942, Lady Astor reportedly quipped, "Winston, you're ugly," to which Churchill rejoined, "Are my teeth falling out? I've got to clean this house." Had Winston Churchill been caught with that type of amphetamine today, and had he been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, he would have received up to a year in prison. Thomas Edison. Cocaine! Long before cocaine became the drug choice for suspenders-clad 80s banker dickbags, cocaine made its way into the hands of America's most beloved inventor. Edison drank it in a popular wine and became a big advocate, claiming cocaine boosted his powers of perception. Edison's drug use might explain why the guy had over 1,093 patents. Who else could have had the energy to invent a crank-powered phonograph other than some coked-out guy wanting to drop a beat? Had Thomas Edison been caught with cocaine today, and had he been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, he would have been charged with a felony and served 3 years in prison. Steve Jobs. LSD! Steve Jobs, turtleneck icon and founder of some fruit company, took LSD and spoke quite openly about its importance in his life and career. According to Jobs, taking LSD was a profound experience, one of the most important things in my life. According to his friend and coworker,
that LSD had been a very positive transformation in how he thought.
Sounds like there was a little fire between you two.
Jobs would have served 1 to 5 years in prison for possession and possible intent to distribute had he been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Gertrude Stein. Marijuana! American poet, playwright, and brooch sensation Gertrude Stein was a nonconformist of many stripes. In particular, her loose attitude towards drug use. Stein's life partner, Alice B. Toklas, even went so far as to write a best-selling cookbook that included, you guessed it, a recipe for pot brownies. If Stein or her partner Alice were caught in one of 28 states and had she been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, Jeff Sessions could have thrown her into the clinker. Ayn Rand. Amphetamines. You might have mixed feelings about Ayn Rand. But she did consume amphetamines. Don't believe me? How else do you think Atlas Shrugged got to be a 1,168-page doorstop? In 1942, Rand was prescribed Benzedrine, a type of amphetamine to lose weight. But instead, she found that speed helped her books to gain weight. She took the drug to finish The Fountainhead and averaged a chapter a week. She was such a fan, she used amphetamines for 30 years. And if Rand were caught with that kind of speed today, she would have served a year in prison. Thomas Jefferson. Opium. Thomas Jefferson is famous for the Louisiana Purchase, the Declaration of Independence, and, embarrassingly, owning people. In his latter years, Jefferson drank laudanum to ease his bowels. And do you know what the principal ingredient of laudanum is? Show me opium! And had Jefferson been caught with opium to date, and had he been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, he would have served a year in prison. And drug use is so common among former U.S. presidents, it's practically a requirement for the job. Here's a quick list of every president who did drugs. Maybe it's why the most common drug use device is their face. Those were just a few famous and beloved people who did drugs. And so here are a few others we didn't have time for. Carl Sagan, actually a big proponent of legalizing pot. Benjamin Franklin, even more of a rascal. And Cary Grant. And just for fun, here are a few obvious ones. And finally, Mr. Rogers, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Alf did not do drugs. But what if you found out they had? Would it render their accomplishments less valuable? Would it change your admiration for Alf? Now, I'm not saying that drugs are good or bad. Drug use can be incredibly harmful in the hands of an addict. But drug policy is a complex issue with serious consequences. So let's have a real conversation about drugs. We're not doing any favors by reducing the national conversation to a cornball PSA.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
How much pot did you guys smoke?